This is an RNZ podcast.
After last weekend's Super Rugby Pacific round, the Herald's Gregor Paul wrote this.
When it comes to good ideas in Super Rugby, the last week has highlighted that New Zealand might have more of them than Australia.
Like what? Well, bringing in the Fijian Ndrua, who just had their fourth win after beating a full-strength Hurricanes team, said Gregor Paul, hours before Moana Pacifica almost scored a sensational upset win over the Blues. Over at Stuff, rugby writer Robert Van Rooyen agreed.
For all the negative chat surrounding Super Rugby Pacific, the competition sure got it right by including the Ndrua. They play some of the most entertaining rugby you could ask for.
All good. And the same day, Stuff reported that Andrew Hoare, the chief executive of the Blues, had said Super Rugby Pacific is potentially becoming like Brazilian soccer. Now, Brazilian skillful soccer is admired all around the world, but that's not what Andrew Hoare meant. He said that, like Brazil, New Zealand was selling rugby talent off and only bringing it back for international matches, and he said that was because New Zealand rugby was really invested in the All Blacks brand above all else. Now, the same day, the Herald and the Otago Daily Times ran this headline from a former All Black coach.
Black Ferns and All Blacks mentor Wayne Smith slams state of rugby.
And Stuff's headline had this.
Coaching guru Wayne Smith blasts the state of men's rugby after turning off Super Rugby game.
And that story said that the Black Ferns and All Blacks coaching maestro had lambasted the state of rugby recently and stopped watching a game on TV for the first time out of pure frustration. And the next day, the Herald's contrarian Chris Ratchew weighed in under this headline.
Wayne Smith is right. Rugby is unwatchable.
And over at TVNZ, digital sport reporter Patrick McKendry was moved to write this.
If Wayne Smith, the professor, is finding it tediously predictable, then there's not much hope for the rest of us, or indeed our children.
Later on News Talk ZB, Drive host Heather Duplessis-Allen joined the rolling maul.
It is now so bad that even one of the most gifted coaches of a generation is saying he cannot bear to watch the game that he loves. Now, isn't that a massive wake-up call?
And soon after that same night, News Hub at 6 had this reaction.
Coaching guru Smith has revealed he recently became so frustrated while watching a game, he switched off to watch a nature documentary. He suggested tinkering with the rules, but as Alex Chapman reports, his ideas received a mauling in Crusaders country.
Joe Moody's face said it all.
Oh, shit. What a ridiculous save.
So what did Wayne Smith actually say that prompted such loose language from the Crusaders' loose head? Well, here at Mediawatch, we were surprised to hear that Wayne Smith had slammed and lambasted rugby on an official All Blacks podcast, where you'd expect that a much more positive vision of the game would be the aim. And when we tuned in, more than an hour and a quarter of this podcast with Wayne Smith went by with no lambasting, no venting, or no slamming from him, until this.
I turned off for the first time in my life at half-time, and I went to watch a program on the lions in Serengeti. I watched an animal documentary. I was so frustrated with it. I don't know if it got any better in the second half, but probably did. But I just thought, it's not a game I want to watch at the moment when it's like that.
Not exactly a spittle-flecked rant, was it? Wayne Smith went on to say more about that stop-start Force versus Highlanders game and overly officious officiating slowing rugby down in general. But he didn't say that Super Rugby Pacific was actually unwatchable. No one got slammed or lambasted. He just turned off one disappointing game one time for the first time ever. Now, in a follow-up piece on Wednesday, the Herald's Gregor Paul said Smith speaking out has given the rank and file a sense of vindication that they're right to be so disgruntled and disillusioned by the direction of rugby. But
it's not clear whether he feels coaches, players, referees or administrators are responsible for the men's game being in the mess it is.
Well, that's not clear because Wayne Smith simply didn't say anything about blaming any of them. In his opinion piece, the Herald's Chris Ratchew concluded that for day-in, day-out entertainment, rugby sucks, on and off the field. Well, Mediawatch doesn't know much about the on-field stuff, but one of the off-field problems seems to be commentators keen for content during game-free weekdays, overreacting to any opinion that anyone with a profile in the game dares to offer about it, however mildly it's actually expressed.